Is it true that the SEC employees in the Office of Intergovernmental and Legislative Affairs have prior experience in congressional oversight and investigations?
Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, that's not my office.
I understand, but
yeah,
do they?
Yes, that is
okay.
correct.
And is it true that the SEC employees in the Office of the General Counsel have prior experience in white-collar litigation and congressional investigations?
I think that question refers to the oversight function that we've recently stood up, and yes, they do have significant experience.
These aren't trick questions, it's just yes or no. So it's safe to say the SEC has hired some good staff, right, who know the ins and outs of congressional oversight. Certainly yourself has been a longtime hand at this. Yet, frankly, we have not received substantive responses in most of our requests. And it seems like you and the rest of the SEC staff who are well-versed in congressional oversight and our responsibilities are very well equipped. We know you have great stellar reputation for being a very, very good lawyer, a tough lawyer, and you know how to respond to congressional requests because you certainly have put those out in your previous capacities. But some might suspect that the SEC is using your congressional oversight experience as a weapon to block us at every turn, frankly, and I sincerely hope that that is not true. But on February 10 of this year, we sent a request related to Sam Bankman-Fried's charges with a deadline of February 24. Are you familiar with that request?
I am familiar with that request.
So it's my understanding that your office does an initial assessment within 24 to 36 hours of first receiving a letter. Is that correct?
I don't know the exact timeline, but they are reviewed expeditiously as soon as we receive requests in our office.
We'll expand it to a generous 48, 24 to 48 hours. All right. So what day did your office begin to actually search for documents and communications responsive to our February 10 request?
So thank you for the question because my office is committed to responding to that request and the committee's other outstanding requests, and we take all of those requests in.
Do you know what date you started and initiated?
I know that each request is reviewed expeditiously. I can say with respect to that particular request that staff engaged with your staff to understand the committee's priorities.
Hold on, it was not before the deadline because during the first conversation between committee staff and your office, which happened to be a week after the deadline, your staff was asking questions attempting to narrow the scope of the request in order to start a search for the documents. Are you familiar with the briefing the Division of Enforcement provided to the committee?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
We offered that.
All right.
briefing.
In your professional opinion, do you think a briefing about how the SEC and the Justice Department work together is sufficiently responsive to our request for records and communications?
So I thank you for the question.
You turned it off.
Thank you for the question. I do think that the briefing is responsive, and the reason is that the request looks at and is asking for information about a parallel investigation conducted by our staff at the SEC and the Department of Justice.
Okay, so am I supposed to now send all of our SEC inquiries to the Department of Justice?
Congressman, we have been responsive to your staff with respect to
That's
the
not my question. So if you're telling me that, well, we can't answer anything, but we were slow to start, you seem to acknowledge that. We're now had to kick it over to DOJ. So are you familiar with the production your team made at the briefing on March 15? That's just a yes or no.
Is this the 232 pages of documents that staff
So yes.
produced? Yes,
Yes.
I am.
All right. Do
familiar
you
with
think
that.
it's responsive or productive use of anyone's time to print public complaints and your own enforcement manual and treat it as if it's responsive to our request?
So,
Is that a good use of your very qualified, highly paid staff? Because it's not of mine.
Many of the committee's requests, including the FTX requests, are broad and encompass not just
Okay,
internal
so
documents.
you're stalling now. Let's turn to the February 22 climate-related request. Are you familiar with that request? Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes,
I am
okay.
familiar.
The SEC produced 29,000 pages pulled straight from the public comment file. One of your productions even included a letter that I sent to the chair congratulating him on his chairmanship. Are you aware that to date, 80% of the documents in response to our climate request are publicly available? I'll let you answer and then time is up. So you are aware that 80% of it is publicly available?
As our rulemakings are conducted in the public view, they are very transparent. The documents produced are responsive to the requests, and we are working on
All
reviewing
right,
the
I'm going to
committee's
take that as a
internal
yes.
priorities.
My time has, I'm going to try to be respectful of everybody's time. That was a stalled out yes.